The first thing Elena felt was pain so sharp it stole the breath from her throat. Her wrists were torn raw, her arms stretched above her head, her cheek pressed into the splintered floorboards of the broken wagon. The sun hammered her like a punishment. Her lips were cracked. Her stomach ached with the kind of hunger that turns a person hollow. She had been dragged across the desert for hours, tied like freight, tossed into the back of a wagon that now lay shattered beside a lonely trail between Tombstone and Tucson. The men who meant to sell her were dead, their bodies scattered in the sand, already claimed by circling vultures. The sight should have brought relief, but terror pushed harder. If she screamed, no one would hear her. If she fainted, she would die under the sun with no name spoken over her. She forced herself to crawl, inch by inch, toward an old water trough, but her legs trembled uselessly. The rope cut deeper into her wrists. She tasted blood. Her vision blurred. Then she heard hooves. A rider approached from the rise, a tall figure in a dust-coated coat, his horse moving with the patience of a creature that had seen too much of the desert. When he spotted the crashed wagon, he halted. He didn't rush toward her. He simply watched, studying the scene, the bodies in the sand, the half-dead girl clawing toward water with the little strength she had left. His eyes narrowed, not with disgust, but with something like sorrow. He dismounted slowly and walked toward her like a man approaching a wild animal that might bolt or collapse. His voice was low and rough. "Easy now. You're all right. Let me get that rope off you." The moment his fingers touched the knot, pain surged through Elena and she cried out, raw, broken, desperate. She forced out a whisper. "Slow down. I can't take this anymore." Later, Jack Calloway would remember that as the moment she trusted him with her suffering. He froze, then shifted his grip, loosening the tension so the rope wouldn't tear her skin further. "I hear you," he murmured. "You're safe now. I'll go slow." The rope loosened. Her arms fell forward. Feeling rushed back like fire. She nearly collapsed, but he caught her and lifted her gently. He carried her to the trough and lowered her hands toward the water so she could see herself, a girl who had survived when she should not have. He did not ask who she was or what had happened. He simply said, "You're coming with me. No one's leaving you out here." He didn't yet know who her captors were. He didn't know the man who paid for her would come hunting for blood. Jack lifted Elena onto his horse as if he'd done it 1,000 times, though truthfully he hadn't carried anyone in years. She held on to his shirt like it was the last solid thing in her world. Not once did she ask where he was taking her. When they reached Calloway Ranch, the yard was quiet. Jack swung down, caught Elena as she slid from the saddle, and carried her inside. Maeve, the housekeeper who had known Jack since he was young, gasped at the sight of the girl. "Lord above, Jack, what happened?" Jack set Elena near the stove. She trembled from exhaustion, not fear. He filled a cup with cool water and held it to her lips. Small sips. Slow. Her voice cracked when she tried to thank him. Maeve pressed a warm cloth to the cuts on her wrists, muttering under her breath the way older women do when they're scared but pretending not to be. "She needs food. Rest. And someone watching that door. Trouble never shows up alone." Jack knew she was right. The image of the bodies at the wagon would not leave his mind. Nor would the way Elena had flinched when he touched the rope. "They were taking me to Bisbee," Elena whispered later. "They said a man there would pay good money." She swallowed hard. "They said no one would ever come looking for me." Jack felt something cold settle inside him. "You're not going anywhere near Bisbee," he said quietly. "You're safe here tonight." "Why did you help me?" she asked. "Why did you stop?" He shrugged. "Because leaving you out there would have been worse than anything waiting for me on that trail." That evening, the dog started barking, warning barks. Jack grabbed his rifle and stepped onto the porch. 6 riders approached. Silas Beck rode at the center, his shoulder wrapped, his eyes sharp and hungry. Silas stopped 10 feet from the steps. "You took something that belongs to me, Calloway. Hand her over, and we end this easy." "She doesn't belong to you," Jack said. "She's not a crate of whiskey you can invoice." Silas smiled, cold and cruel. "I paid for her. I don't leave money lying in the desert." Jack lifted the rifle just enough to send a message. The air tightened. One of Silas's men twitched toward his gun. Jack fired first. The bullet hit Silas in the side, knocking him half out of the saddle. His men dragged him away as he bled and cursed Jack's name. Elena stepped onto the porch, shaking. "What happens now?" "We go to Tombstone tomorrow," Jack said. "We make this right in front of the sheriff." 3 days later, they rode into town. Sheriff Carter listened carefully as Jack told the story and Elena described her ordeal. When she finished, the sheriff leaned back. "This is enough to lock Silas up for good, if we find him first." But he didn't have to find Silas. Silas found them. He stood in the street with 2 hired guns beside him. Sheriff Carter stepped forward. "Silas Beck, you're under arrest for kidnapping and trafficking." Silas laughed. "You think I'm letting her walk away?" He went for his gun. 2 deputies shot first. Silas collapsed in the dust. Hours later, bleeding and barely conscious, he asked to speak with Elena. She stood in the doorway while Jack waited just outside, hand on his gun. Silas stared at her with fading eyes. "You got lucky," he rasped. "You met a decent man. Luck like that doesn't come twice." He died minutes later. In the weeks that followed, Elena stayed at Calloway Ranch. She cooked with Maeve, learned the horses, learned the quiet safety of evenings on the porch. Little by little, her laughter returned. One morning, as the sky glowed gold, she placed her hand on Jack's and whispered, "I'd like to stay. For good." They married near the same trough where she had once whispered, "Slow down. I can't take this anymore." This time, she laughed through tears and said, "Hurry, Jack. I can't take another moment of this happiness." A story that began in fear ended in a home built on quiet strength and second chances.